Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with forensics expert and my old friend, Dr. Henry Lee. Dr. Lee,
Pete.
my friend, how are you? Good to see you again.
All right,
it's been a while.
good to see you, yeah.
It's been a while. So what's been new since the last time we sat down together?
Well, of course, I retired from the state.
That's right.
In 1998,
Okay.
I retired from the state forensic laboratory, then become a commissioner for Connecticut State Police. Then 2005, I retired again as a chief emeritus. Then back to University of New Haven in 2010. Become a distinguished professor, and just 2 weeks ago, I decided to retire the fifth time. So retired from University in New Haven.
Okay.
Now become a professor emeritus for the university.
So as a professor emeritus, what exactly do you do?
Well, depends on the definition of a professor emeritus. Supposedly, just retire, sit on the chair, enjoy the life. However, we do have a Forensic Research and Training Institute.
That's right.
So we still do a lot of teaching for in-service. In other words, people currently work in the police department, laboratory, or district attorney, or defense attorney, sometimes judges, even reporters. So the institute basically have 5 missions. Training is one.
Okay.
Second is public learning. We do a lot of public speeches.
Yeah.
For example, attend your program. That's a public learning program.
That's right.
We do a lot of teaching at the high school, especially inner city high school kids. We try to work with them to show them in this country still have a lot of opportunity. Don't just give up your life. I usually use myself as an example.
Okay.
When I come to this country, 1965, I don't even speak English.
Oh, wow.
I did what I did by working hard working. So I encourage those kids, don't hook up with drugs, don't join the gang, find a goal, career goal. Then work on it. Whatever we can do, we can help them.
Right.
The third thing the Institute does, we become a national cold case center.
Okay.
We're helping people, police department around the world, try to solve unsolvable case. The fourth one for the Institute is we do some research in the topic of forensic science.
Okay.
The fifth one, because Institute is a non-profit one, so whatever the surplus income, we give the scholarship, provide the student with some financial help.
Sure.
So that's basically what we do.
Okay.
Have a beautiful facility built on University of New Haven campus. In year 2010,
Okay.
and initially that time governor wanted to give me $4 million, Governor Rowe, and later just happened the financial crisis. That money was cut in half. Initially I have a federal grants, $2 million, but that later we only have $250,000. Luckily a lot of my friends, a lot of public sending in checks, say this is so important, and I'm really grateful for their help. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank all the citizens helping out, and also send an open invitation for you and any public want to have a tour of the Institute.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take you up on that. So tell us a little bit about your life and how you got interested in forensics.
Well, I was born in China.
Okay.
My father used to be a landlord, very rich businessman, owns almost half of the land in town. during the revolution, we have to move to Shanghai. And in 1949, we come to Taiwan. So my father wait until, I was there before my father. My father left Shanghai in 1949, but his ship was sunk in South China Sea. And so when I was 9 years old, I lost my father. Oh. My mother raised all the 13 kids, single-handed. That's why people asking me who I respect the most. Mm-hmm. I said, my mother. Who you scared the most? My mother. And whatever my mom says, I listen.
Absolutely.
So when I was in Taiwan high school that time, my career dream is to become a basketball player.
Okay.
I try very hard.
Right.
I'm short but quick.
There you go.
My coach even have a meeting with me. Say, son, when you grow another 2 feet, come back to see me.
Right.
So I took literally every night, try to do exercise. Hopefully I can grow taller.
Right.
But I don't have Michael Jordan's DNA.
No.
Nor Yao Ming's chromosome either.
Right.
So one night I realized each of us have a limitation. Mm-hmm. Physically, mentally, we all have a limitation. Right. So that's what I share with a lot of high school students. Don't try to do something you cannot be. Then all your life going to be miserable.
Yes.
Just find an area you're interested. Mm-hmm. So I decided to become a police officer.
Okay.
Went to Taiwan Police College. So I quickly become very strong because we have to practice Kung Fu. I'm a Kung Fu master too.
Exactly.
So in 1959, I graduated from the college, become the youngest police captain in Taiwan. Wow. But that time, around the world, every police department solving the cases use interrogation, use informer. Mm-hmm. So during those investigations, I found some innocent people was forced into confession. So I say, why? Can we have a better way to solve the case? So I start have an interest in learning scientific evidence.
Right.
Of course, that time in Taiwan in the 60s, pretty primitive forensic science field. We're basically doing some crime scene photo, fingerprint, or shoe print comparison. So in 1965, I decided to come to United States to study. That's how I get into the forensic field.
Okay.
Of course, when I first come to U.S., I don't speak English.
No.
So I have to work 3 jobs.
Okay.
To make enough money to pay the tuition, to raise the family. Meanwhile, goes to school.
Right.
So that 10 years, from 65 to 75, it's the most difficult time in my life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
My mother always say, don't give up.
Right.
When you give up, you basically have nothing. Mm-hmm. If you don't give up, keep working, just one step at a time. Every day, study, work. A year later, you can see, look back, you achieve a lot.
Exactly.
5 years later, 10 years later, I finished my doctorate degree.
Okay.
In molecular biology from New York University.
All right.
So in 1975, I accept the offer. University New Haven offered me a job as an assistant professor to develop this forensic program.
Okay.
University New Haven, that has still a small community college. Mm-hmm. Forensic basically just a corner of a laboratory have one microscope, a fire cabinet for fingerprint kits. That's it.
Wow.
So with the student, many of my students, we work together. Some of the students become police chief, laboratory director, attorneys, judges. They all giving back. Like one of my students, Ken Biermarker, become a famous lawyer in Texas. He donated $1 million to the building of the institute.
Wow.
He said, Dr. Lee, you help us so much. It's time we give him back, help the younger generation.
Absolutely.
That really warmed my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 1966, state police contact me, public defender's office contact me to help them review cases. So by that time, I become a consultant for Connecticut State Police, also for Connecticut Public Defender's Office and Chief Prosecutor's Office.
Okay.
In addition, we're helping a lot of police department in the state, out of state. So by 1997, 98, Governor Grasso created a position, offered me a job to join the state police.
That's right.
After as the chief criminalist and laboratory chief.
Mm-hmm.
But the salary is almost half what I'm making as a assistant professor.
Oh, wow.
So at university, I quickly rose around the rank, become associate professor, then become full professor. However, my career dream is to set up a forensic laboratory to serve the state of Connecticut. That's why I decided to join the state police and teaching at university, still continue, teach the night classes. During the day, I work for state police laboratory. So from that time, 1975, 76, 77 to 79, we start develop the laboratory.
Okay.
The laboratory initially have 17 troopers, 2 sergeant, 1 lieutenant. It's all sworn personnel.
Right.
So one proposal asked the governor, with the support of the legislator, the laboratory start civilianized. Mm-hmm. So we can hire some people with scientific training. So a lot of good forensic scientists start joining the laboratory. A lot of professors, even have a Yale professor want to join the laboratory too. I say, I have to have a big salary cut. We can't pay. They say, well, you know, this is something they want to do.
Exactly.
So quickly, the laboratory start have a civilian scientist. In addition, apply a lot of federal grants and private foundation money, so set up buying instrument. The first, I still remember the 2 pieces of equipment. One is a GC, one is a UV spectral photography. That both was donated by insurance industry.
Okay.
Because that time have a rush of arson case, especially in New Haven area.
Yep.
The chief New Haven area district attorney Arnold Marco and asking me to join the arson task force with the New Haven Fire Department, New Haven Police Department. We start training the first arson dog with ATF and State Police Canine Unit.
Yep.
We trained the first dog. Her name, even today, I still remember, Maddie. She is a world first arson dog. So we developed a lot of procedure. The laboratory from 17 people almost get to 100. And we have 16 different sections. We start implementing a lot of new procedure We set up a so-called major crime squad, like now, or the major cases that time. I work with detective unit, and we scientists and a detective goes to crime scene together. Detective use their investigative experience. Scientists will use the scientific knowledge, can work together, solving cases. So by 1980s and 90s, the laboratory have a national, international reputation. A forensic program at the university also, we got a lot of grants, recruit a lot of good students, and the program also become a international known forensic educational program. So by 1998, I worked for state almost 25 years, so I can retire. A lot of federal agency, a lot of other state offer me jobs, triple my salary. I was really thinking moving to Florida or some warmer state. So my mother say, don't forget, Connecticut give you an opportunity to develop. You should still put the priority helping Connecticut. That time, state police have some internal, external pressure. Governor Rowland offered me a job as the commissioner for state police and public safety. At first, I turned him down. I said, Governor O'Neill asked me too. I said, no way. I don't want to be a chief. I don't want to be a commissioner. Then Governor Weicker even asked me, do I interested in state police commissioner? I said, no. I like to stay in the laboratory. And so Governor Rowland talked to my wife and talked to my mother. So my mother and my wife said, why don't you want to become a commissioner? I said, in a commissioner's job, you have 36 meetings a day. You have to learn, hug the lady, kiss the baby, she moves the legislator to get funding. You have to deal with so many unions.
You got to deal with it all.
All. I say, work in the laboratory. I just deal with the physical evidence. I can put the human factor away. But my mother says, it's what state want you. You should really work hard to change the system, work with the system. She said something I never forgot. 200 years of U.S. history. Is any Asian become a state police commissioner? I said, no. So you should break the glass ceiling, become the first Asian state police commissioner. Do a good job for the state, for the people of Connecticut. So I took the job. Right away, I set up a goal, objective. Because many times I lecture on leaderships and management. One of the problems with the U.S. law enforcement is a lot of chiefs that promote from the rank. They're excellent officers. However, become a chief, you have to think about, not think like a just street cop anymore. You have to think about the community. The plan, the objective, how to execute your plan, become reality. How to work with a team, not yourself anymore. Like I work as a forensic scientist, I can work by myself with a microscope, with a piece of equipment. But work to investigate case, you need a team, not yourself. You need good detective, you need community support, you need citizen to provide information, you need to search database, you have a variety activity.
That's right.
Of course, as a commissioner, you have so many units, not just the laboratory.
Right.
You have to think about equal opportunity. You have to think about each community have different need. New Haven,
Yes.
it's different than Old Saybrook.
Absolutely.
Old Saybrook is different than New Milford.
Yes.
So we have 170 some different town and city
Yep.
and community in the state.
Correct.
As a commissioner, you have to take care of everybody.
Right.
So this 20 objective, I want to automate the department because early days, the fingerprint, we use hand search.
That's right.
Fire cabinet full of a fingerprint car. It's about 1.5 million to 2 million fingerprint car.
Oh, wow.
If I hire a fingerprint examiner, I give him a latent lift from the crime scene. He tried to search all the fingerprint car. Take him 50 years. Just barely finish. So I was often joking, you hired him when he retired. He said, Dr. Lee, I did not find a match.
Yeah, right.
So we started looking at AFIS, automated fingerprint system. We was lucky get some funding. Also, I talked to the provider. They donate some money. So quickly, we set up a automated fingerprint system.
Okay.
We also set up a sex offender data bank
All right.
because in this country, we have approximately 1 million sexual assault or rape cases. The clearance rate, that time pretty low, less than 40%. So the most of the sexual assault rape cases unsolved. For victims, they have to face this dilemma every day.
Right.
So we decide to have a sex offender data bank. We found a lot of rape sexual cases are repeat offenders.
Yes.
Then, of course, by 1998, we adopted DNA, set up a DNA data bank,
That's right.
hook up with FBI, CODIS. I found out this community policing in the state Connecticut, we don't even implement the school resource officer. So we wrote a proposal to Justice Department. And initially, they reject our proposal. My contact person in Washington said, Henry, you're a state police doing highway patrol.
Right.
We're not going to fund it. I said, before you make decision, I'd like to present a slideshow to the committee. So I asked our physical officer, I said, I need a ticket from Hartford to Washington, D.C. He said, wow, Dr. Lee, this afternoon it's almost impossible. Even a week later, it's impossible. Staff have to go through a lot of paperwork to get the money to buy a ticket. I say, here's my credit card. Just buy a ticket.
Right.
I flew to D.C. after my 1 hour presentation. I said, we have so many resident troopers. 2/3 of the territory is patrolled by state police.
Right.
That's community.
Exactly.
I say, even highway is a community. Our job is not punish the citizen, give them a ticket.
Exactly.
Is to try to alert them. Don't drink and driving. don't drive excessively. So when I was commissioner time, citizens like state troopers because I tell them, I don't want you just write a ticket, $200, $300
Right.
if somebody couple miles over.
Absolutely.
I'd rather you to give them a warning, say drive carefully.
Right.
If somebody cut in and out excessively, give them 3 tickets.
There you go.
That's the time state police and community very, very friendly.
Absolutely.
And the national even bought the idea
Okay.
because this resentment, for example, recent this demonstration, the police
Yes.
and that sort of thing.
Sure.
A lot of people say community and state and the local police and state police don't understand each other or what. I think the problem is the ticket.
Right.
A lot of city government, state government use that as a source of income.
Mm-hmm.
So you give how many tickets a year?
Right.
You punish your citizen. Think about it. I don't know how much you're making. Like now, I make
Right.
very little money.
Exactly.
So let's say you make $500
Sure.
a week.
Sure.
You speeding, they give you a ticket $475.
Right.
You say,
You got $30.
that's how much my income
Exactly.
goes.
Exactly.
And so we implement community policing program. We got the grants. We set up a high school resources officer.
Okay.
That kind of state police have the maximum strength because we have a lot of grants, a lot of money from federal, from foundation.
Right.
So we also found out the radio system for state police is antiquated.
Right.
We still use 600 megahertz. Couple officers' life in danger. Some got shot, killed, died of a line of duty because they call on radio. The troop cannot hear it.
Right.
If you're in a tall building, 9/11,
Right.
a lot of fire personnel and police officers, including one of the fire chief, Genson, my good friend, died in the tragedy. Because the radio system, we was able to raise enough money, $98 million. Pete, don't ask me how I got those money.
Okay.
So we work day and night. We convert to 800 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
Turn out that's the easy part
Absolutely.
to get in the funding. To build a radio tower, that's more difficult.
Right.
If I want to build a tower in your backyard,
Right.
do you let me to do it?
No.
You are a good friend.
Exactly.
So I have to go to other community,
Yeah, right.
try to convince them how important.
Right.
Now the whole state now
Right.
have a network, 800 megahertz.
Mm-hmm.
We have a central dispatching system, so the whole state benefit by that.
Right.
So the 20 objective quickly was implemented.
Right.
So after a year, initially I tell governor I only want to do a year.
Okay.
But the governor say, everybody like you, why don't you do more? I said,
Exactly.
no. I say, we still have 2 projects almost finished, is to improve the barrack and the fleet. So in 2 years, I finish all 20 objectives. So I tell governor, it's time for me to leave
Time for me
to
to go.
do what I really want to do,
Exactly.
forensic work. So back to State Police Lab,
Okay.
I say, Chief Emeritus, I don't do any administrative stuff,
Right.
just help review the cases. And also the laboratory, the third phase of a new building, year 2005, finally finished. Did the ribbon cutting with Governor Rao, and after that, I said, now I finished everything.
There you go.
I want to leave now.
You want to retire.
That's forced time back to university.
So, Dr. Lee, what are some of the famous cases that you've worked on?
Well, of course, people always say O.J. Simpson,
Right.
John Benet Ramsey, Kelly Anthony,
Yes.
Phil Spector, all those cases.
Yeah.
But before those cases, in 1980s, I worked on a Sacco Vanzetti case. That case in late 80s, early 90s in Massachusetts become the biggest case in U.S. history. Two people robbed a paymaster and killed the paymaster and a couple people. Shook the community, shook the country. So two person was quickly arrested. One person named Sacco, the other person Vanzetti. One is a sell fish, the other one is a shoemaker. Both are Italian.
Right.
Because that time, in early 19th century, this country have a sentiment against the Italian immigrant, think they are anarchists,
Yeah.
think they are communist. So Sacco and Vanzetti both was convicted and hung.
Oh boy.
However, a lot of evidence have question marks. And so have a world demonstration. Of course, in U.S., this George Floyd case,
Yes.
but in that time, every city have this demonstration. Make a long story short, I think about 10 or 20 years ago, Massachusetts Governor Dukakis finally cleared both of them. I even made a statue for them. Also, in 1990s, have a new committee, congressional committee, set up to reinvestigate Kennedy assassination. Myself and Dr. Blackburn was asked to review the case. They flew us to Washington to review all the piece evidence, try to look at in a newer development in forensic field, can we provide an answer? Is Lee Oswald the lonely assassin, or that's a political conspiracy? Unfortunately, the crime scene was not properly handled. The physical evidence is gone. Even Kennedy's brain disappeared. So not much we can do. Recently, Everett Stone, the producer, invited me to Texas to do an interview because next year is a landmark year. They're going to show a special Kennedy assassination reinvestigation. Of course, besides that, are also involving Vincent Foster, untimely death in the Mercy Park in Washington, D.C. His body was found in an embankment and died of a single gunshot in the mouth.
Oh, wow.
That time, of course, the impeachment, the movement.
Yeah.
And Republican want to say that's a homicide. Clinton murdered his best friend. Democrat, of course, think that's a suicide.
Right.
So you talk about pressure. Many times the forensic scientists will investigate. It's a lot of pressure from media, from the politician.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they twist the fact, report, misleading the public. So the public somehow was misled by the media.
Okay.
So that case, we have to call as it is, whatever the physical evidence tell us. So Judge Starr was appointed as an independent counsel. I still remember work with him. Very, very knowledgeable, nice gentleman. He said, Dr. Lee, we just want the scientific fact. Call as it is. The independent counsel did not put any pressure on us. Of course, we went back to Mercy Park to reconstruct. We examined each piece of the evidence they collected. We found so much evidence to show he died of a more likely suicide. So all those cases are much well known. However, somehow the media just interested in the juicy stuff.
Right. Right.
Of course, O.J. Simpson case.
Absolutely.
When that just started, 80% of the Caucasian think O.J. guilty like hell.
Mm-hmm.
80% of the minority think he's totally innocent. I was kidding, 100% of Chinese, we don't care.
Yeah, right.
Because I don't even know who is O.J. Simpson.
Right.
When his heyday, he's the running back for Buffalo.
Right.
That time, I have to work 3 jobs and
You didn't have
goes
time.
to school. I don't have time.
No.
Watch television. I don't even have the money to buy a television.
Exactly.
So who is O.J. Simpson? I really don't know.
Right.
When Bob Shapiro called me, said want me to look at the case, a famous person called O.J. I said, I never heard of him. And of course, later, I did not realize what the case I got involved.
Yeah.
Of course, as a scientist, we just look at the physical evidence. Physical evidence shows 2 types of a bloody shoe print at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
The police initially just report 1, ignore the other.
Ooh.
When I re-examined the scene, we found 2, which means could be 2 people at the scene. Also, we look at the timeline analysis. We look at the blood stain on O.J.'s body,
Okay.
plus the fact the net pad, the glove did not fit him. So all of those indicates somebody may be smaller than him.
Right.
We did not say, my report did not say O.J. wasn't at the scene.
Right.
And but make a long story short, because this issue of the investigator lie. For example, Mark Furman say, I never used N-word.
Right.
Was taped. He used 32 or whatever, 28, 32 N-word in a 30-minute recording. For example, the chief detective took the O.J. Simpson's blood, put it in the back pocket, went back to the crime scene. When you have a suspect's blood, the procedure, you should send to the laboratory right away and try to preserve it.
Yeah.
You should not put in your pocket and back to the crime scene. Of course, later, crime scene blood DNA match O.J. Simpson, except those blood samples have EDTA. EDTA is a preservative. It's not supposed in the human circulation.
Okay.
So how those EDTA come from? Today we still don't have an explanation.
Oh, wow. That's pretty amazing.
Okay.
That's pretty. That's
So
pretty amazing.
we continue
Yeah.
with cases. Okay.
Sure.
One of the case have a lot of interesting. Have two cases. Both suspect is Peterson.
Okay.
One is North Carolina Michael Peterson. The other one is near San Francisco. You remember that case?
I don't.
Also Peterson.
Okay.
His pregnant wife disappeared.
Aha.
He was on national television
Okay,
crying, please,
Yeah.
you know, I will pay whatever, I will do whatever, get my
Exactly.
wife back.
Right. And
Meanwhile, he's fooling around with a massage
right.
masseur.
Exactly.
And so later, he was charged for the crime. Defense contact me. We look at the evidence, and everything consistent with him. Okay, so that case, I went to court. I tell judge what I'm funding, and my funding. Defense attorney said we're not going to put you on. So many cases, defense retain me.
Right.
We found more evidence than the prosecution. And however, many cases we found evidence exonerate
Oh, wow.
the suspect.
Right.
For example, in this country, the first Innocent Project case is happened in Virginia. A black teenager called Washington.
Okay.
He's only that time 16 or 17, but big, strong build, but with a mental capacity, probably 6 years old.
Wow.
His parents gone, so he lived with the sister. The sister say, why you just every day drink soda, eating?
Right.
Why don't you go out find some job? So he went out. Of course, cannot find any job. He got on the Greyhound. Greyhound bus driver found his no ticket, so kicked him out the bus in the next town in Virginia.
Right.
So he have no place to go. He slept at the bus station. Turned out that town had a rape homicide. Detectives looking for suspect. So found this guy slept in a bus station.
Bus station. Right.
Took him back to interview. He just can't really answer. His mental capacity is so low.
Right.
So after many hours interview, he tell detective, I'm hungry, I want to eat. Detective say, okay, you just sign here, we buy fried chicken for you. That's a confession.
Okay.
So the physical evidence sent to the laboratory of Virginia, and that time is pre-DNA day. The ABO, that time we do ABO system.
Okay.
So Washington have a private attorney,
Okay.
but served as a public defender.
Mm-hmm.
He only took every year take a case pro bono. So he contacted me. We did some typing. We actually excluded the suspect. In other words, the semen found it's not his. So the judge heard the case. I testify.
Okay.
So judge said, okay, we just give you life without parole, because initially that's a death penalty case. And so finally, the governor commuted his sentence, set him free. When 90s, DNA come along, so DNA typing, of course, exclude him. So DNA, of course, today becomes so popular. DNA can link a suspect to a case, but also can exonerate the innocent person.
Right.
Unfortunately, DNA sometimes misused. For example, a vagina swab,
Right.
you found foreign DNA.
Mm-hmm.
That's a clear exclusion. Semen wasn't deposited by the suspect. However, if you found a semen stain on the bed sheet, you have foreign DNA on it. Not necessary. That's an exoneration. Especially now, today, a lot of time, for example, your notepad.
Yes.
Let's say something happened here. The notepad become a piece of evidence.
Mm-hmm.
If you found your DNA, it's fine.
Right.
But if somebody else's DNA,
We're gonna have an issue.
what does it mean?
Right.
In addition, all those 80s case, nobody wear gloves.
No.
When the evidence submitted to the court, detective pick it up, put in the bag, laboratory people exam, put back into the bag, give back to the department, case on trial, the clerk open the bag, take the, for example, let's say sneaker, take the
Yep.
sneaker out, and
They examine it.
give it to the prosecutor.
Sure.
Prosecutor say, Judge, we want to introduce this as evidence.
That's right.
Judge say, okay, let me look at it. So he is barehanded, look at it. Okay, you can pass, give the jury.
Right.
Defense attorney say, Your Honor, wait a second, I want to look at it too. So he look at it, barehanded, then we give it to the jury, one after another, 14 or 16 of them. Everybody touched
And then they're
it.
looking at it barehanded.
Yeah, they put back to the
Put back in the
evidence
bag.
back. So 30 years later,
Right.
innocent project said, we want to test the sneaker. Found some foreign DNA. Therefore, have
Right.
another suspect. What does it mean? Of course, the newspaper sometimes report,
Right.
wow, new DNA evidence. What does it mean?
Right.
They don't report a real fact, just say new DNA evidence exonerate
Right.
the suspect.
Absolutely.
If the judge understands science,
Mm-hmm.
it's fine. Sometimes the judge doesn't even know. The public defender, of course, use the evidence in favor of them.
Right.
If the state attorney don't argue correctly, now is the public really served? A lot of victims' families feel frustrated
Right.
because of that. Recently, I experienced a similar situation.
Okay.
A homicide case happened in 1985. in New Milford.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Carr, he retired December 1st.
Okay.
He stayed in his daughter's house in New Milford. Sometime mid of the night, either midnight of December 1st or early dawn morning of December 2nd, he was murdered. His daughter came home about 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, found her dad lying in the hallway.
Wow.
In pool of blood. He was stabbed about 27 times. His throat was cut. Blood stain, blood spatter all over the place.
Absolutely.
By late afternoon of 2nd, New Milford Police contact State Police Major Crime Squad.
Yep.
Major Crime Squad in turn contact me and the Chief Medical Examiner.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the scene. We found Mr. Carr was murdered. We found 2 types of a shoe print, bloody shoe print, on the linoleum and some of the carpet area.
Okay.
So that tells us 2 potential suspects. Look at the type of shoes and size of shoes we think looks like a male. We look at the first floor bedroom, the drawer pulled down, and ransacked the bedroom. Victim's daughter say have a lot of a roll of coin and some cash. It's all gone. Also, there are other valuable also gone. So right away we know that's a burglar-related homicide.
Right.
What we did on the 3rd, we use chemical to enhance the shoe print.
Okay.
The type of chemical we use called chemical screening test for blood, which will react with the blood component hemoglobin. From colorless become a blue color. The chemical we use called tetramethylbenzidine, TMB.
Okay.
It's a very sensitive chemical test. So we enhance the shoe print. Meanwhile, we try to raise some bloody fingerprint. However, what we found is all smudges.
Right.
In other words, cannot be identified.
Right.
Then we test the drawer. We found some blood. Subsequently, laboratory tests show that's victim's blood. We also found some spot in the 2nd floor bathroom sink, and one of the towel, have 2 towels hanging there. So we use some chemical test, it show positive.
Right.
So I tell the crime scene people, collect those, send to the laboratory. This case remained unsolved for quite a few days.
Well, Dr. Lee, we're out of time. I want to thank you for coming down. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
All right, my friend. See you soon.
15 minutes already?
That was a half hour already.
Oh.
We're done.
Well, okay.
On behalf of Henry Lee, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.